In today's lesson, we are going to start learning how to use Adobe InDesign program. Before we begin, please download InDesign Demo1 zip folder, which you can find on your course documents on your Blackboard. Here you can see preview of one of the documents I have saved there, which is a step-by-step instructions on how to complete demo number 1. Before we begin, I just want to point out that you are able to use Adobe InDesign, Photoshop, and Illustrator together and to migrate your files back and forth. However, you have to be aware that the storage may be very large for some of the files, so please always back up your files on Google Drive, it's free, and also back up your file on OneDrive as well. Files that have high resolution images will be very large, so in addition to saving them on your desktop, it's good to save them on Google Drive and OneDrive. So Adobe InDesign is really great for page layouts, and it's especially great when you have multiple pages with lots of text. So if you have just a single page with not too much text, you can always use Photoshop or Illustrator. But if you are creating a portfolio or a book or a lookbook, then you may want to use Adobe InDesign. So today we're going to start learning how to use it. So the first thing you have to consider, whether you want your pages to be facing, such as double page layout. So if you look at the double page layout, you have to consider what pages are going to be across each other. So if you want to have facing pages, you turn on the facing pages button that you can see right here when you create a new document. So if you're creating a portfolio of your work, a magazine, or a lookbook, you always have to plan your pages as a double page spread, and then think about the following. What pages will be across each other? What is the order of pages that you want? So here is an example of a magazine layout that shows you how you would have to carefully plan out the facing pages or the double page spreads. You also have the front cover, and then you have the last page as well. On the other hand, you can also create non-facing pages, meaning the single page layouts, in which case you're just looking at one page at a time. So this is something you may want to do for on-screen viewing, such as saving a PDF portfolio. So in this case, you don't have to think about facing pages, but you do have to plan the order of pages so that it makes sense when you save your book. The other thing you have to consider is whether you want to have bleeding setup or non-bleeding setup. So last class I spoke about this in more detail, but just to review, bleeding setup, the artwork is printed all the way to the edge of the paper, and the non-bleeding setup, the ink doesn't reach all the way to the edge of the paper, so you don't have to add the extra bleed area. So this example explains it a little bit more. So for bleeding setup, you have to trim off the bleed area, and the white portion represents the final printed piece. So in InDesign, you can also set the bleed area, and if you're creating an artwork that is going to be non-bleeding, then you don't have to consider the bleed area. Also, if you're creating an artwork that's going to be for on-screen viewing only, then obviously you don't need the bleed area in that case as well. So again, consider whether you need to indicate bleed area or not. The other thing you're going to find in the zip folder that I saved for you is Adobe InDesign cheat sheet, which lists all the tools and shortcuts that you should be aware of. So let's begin. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to download InDesign Demo1 zip folder from the Blackboard. I'm going to double click on that, and then that'll give me the actual folder inside of which I can go and have a look at the files that I have. I'm going to just delete the zip folder. So here I have my new folder. So inside you're going to see the cheat sheet that I just mentioned, which you can go through in more detail when you get a chance. So these are all different shortcuts, and tool names. The other thing that is inside that you can have a look at is the Word document, which has step-by-step instructions. So this is what I'm going to be going over with you today. So I would recommend you print this out and keep it for yourself because you can refer to it later on. So it's called CAD 402 project number 4, InDesign Demo number 2. On top, it's listing the due date, the value of the project, what are the file names and the folder names, and how you have to save this demo, and how to upload it to your Demo number 1, InDesign Demo number 1 assignment tool. And here is the preview of the pages and what the assignment is going to look like when we finish it today. And here you can see the marking sheet. And then on the second page, the actual tutorial starts. First, I talk about page layout, facing pages or double page spread, which I just spoke about, and the single page layout, which I just introduced. So this information is also on the handout. Furthermore, there's information about bleeding setup and non-bleeding setup, so you can read that again because it's something you have to consider as you start setting up your document in InDesign. So now I'm actually just going to close this for now, and I'm going to follow this handout step by step to create your demo. So before we begin, I need you to have a look at the pictures we're going to be using. So inside of the InDesign Demo Pix 1, I have the pictures we're going to be using for your demo. When you are creating your own personal document, you would do the same. You would set up a new folder, and then you would put all of the images and all of the files that you want to use inside of it. So what I'll do is I'll just copy this and I'll paste that folder here on my desktop, and then I'm just going to call it my last name Demo1. So I'm just going to rename this folder. So my last name InDesign Demo1, and then that'll be the name of the folder which I'm going to use to not only put my pictures inside, but to save my actual InDesign file as well. So the rule number 1 is whenever you're starting a new document in InDesign, you have to create a new folder, which I just did. Then I also have to put all of the pictures I'm going to use inside, which I just did. And then you also have to save the actual InDesign file inside of the same folder where your pictures are. So it's very important that you always remember to save your pictures in the same folder as where you're going to save your actual InDesign file. This way the pictures will be linked properly and they will open properly. If your InDesign file isn't saved in the same folder where your pictures are, then you're not going to be able to open it, or somebody else looking at it will not be able to open the file because the pictures will not be able to find the link, meaning the document will not be properly linked to the pictures unless you embedded them. So for now, we're just going to be linking them instead of embedding them. So therefore, the actual document, again, has to be saved in the same folder as my pictures. So that is number 1 thing to remember. So I'm ready to go. I have my family name InDesign Demo1 folder, and I've got my pictures inside. So now I can begin. So first I'm going to go to InDesign, and then I will start a new document. So to start a new document, I am going to go to File, New, and then I will select Document. So here I'm going to click on Print. I'm going to click on Letter Size. The letter size is automatically giving me 8.5 by 11, and it's set up 2 inches. I'm going to select facing pages, so it'll be a booklet with cover and the last page. And I'm going to select I want 10 pages. So again, you can put a different number depending on what you were doing. For text, I'm just going to keep it as one column, and also I am going to leave the column gutter as it is. We can see how to change that later on. Then moving on, next is your margins. So the margins are preset here as 0.5 inches, so half an inch, and I can just leave that, that's fine. For bleeding, I'm going to put 0 because this will be just for online. This could be just a non-bleeding setup, or it could be for online viewing. So therefore, I don't really need to put bleeding here. But if you were doing a bleeding setup, then you could put 0.125 bleeding setup for the inches, and that's how much of the paper would be cut off all around when the file is printed. So in our case, for demo number 1, I'm just going to leave it at 0 bleeding. And then I'm going to click on Create. So here is my new file. I can zoom out, and then you can see my facing pages, and then you can also see my first and the last page as well. The other thing you want to do now is just go to Window, Workspace, and then select Essentials Classic. So that's the setup you're going to see. The other thing you want to make sure you see, in case if you don't see it, is Layers and Pages. So if I click on the pages, I can see all of the pages where I am. And if you don't see your pages, and if you don't see the Layers palette, then you have to go to Window, Pages, and then the Pages palette will be displayed for you. Here on this side, you are going to be able to see the tools, and some of them we're already going to be using today, and we'll go over them in a few minutes. The other thing that you should check before you start is just making sure that you save it. So I'm going to go File, Save As. I'll call it my last name, then InDesign, and then Demo1, and then I'm going to save that inside of the folder that I created for myself, which is Dobrik InDesign Demo1 pick Demo1 pics, and then here are my pictures, and then I'm going to click on Save. So then it'll save this file inside of the folder where I have my pictures. Again, remember we said you have to have the actual file and the pictures saved in the same folder. So I've got that done, so I'm good to continue. So the next thing we're going to do is have a look at the links folder. So links palette is here. So all the pictures that I bring down are going to be showing up in the links palette. You also have the layers. For now, I just have one layer, and then the pages. So here I can see. Okay, so now you're going to make sure you have pages palette displayed. If you don't see it, you go to Window, Pages to display it, and then you can zoom in to see your pages on your desktop. Then you are going to see that the pages are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. And then if you click on one page, it'll highlight blue, and that'll be your active page. So for example, even though my page number 7 is my active page, I can still just zoom in and work into page 1, and then it'll still work. So if I use the pencil, I can then start working there, and my artwork is being created there. Okay, so you don't have to pre-select the page that you're going to work in, but the pages layout is useful to be able to see what you have on each page, and you're also going to be able to move your pages around, which is what we're going to try doing later on. You can simply click and drag, and then you can rearrange the order of your pages. So now we're going to learn how to work with images. So I'm going to start placing some pictures. So the first thing, I'm going to go to File Place, and then you will click on the bow picture, and then you will click on the Open button once, and then if you just click, the picture will come down in its full size. If you click and drag, then the picture is going to be as big as the amount that you click and drag. So for example, File, Place, Bow Picture, click on Open, and then I click and drag just a little bit, and then my picture will be placed inside of that frame. To copy this, I can press Alt Option key, and then using the black arrow, I'm going to duplicate it to make one more. And so there we are. So next, we're going to see how you can move the picture. So to move the picture, you're going to use the black arrow, and then you're going to click and just drag it in order to move it. Again, click and drag it in order to move it. If you want to delete it, you're going to click on it and press delete, and then it's going to be gone. So I'm just going to do Command Z to undo it. The other thing you're going to notice that when you're using the black arrow, make sure that you do not click on the donut button when you're trying to move it, because if you do, it's actually moving your picture within the frame itself, which is not really what I want to do right now, but it could be something that I want to do if I'm to crop this image. So let's say we just want to crop the image and just leave her head. Then in that case, it may be useful to move it across the donut area, and now you can crop the image. The white arrow is used for the same purpose. If you click on the white arrow, then you are able to move the image inside of the cropping square, and that'll allow you to crop your image. The other thing too is if you use the white arrow, then the picture will be selected, and then if you were to press Shift, you can resize it. And if you wanted to also reduce the size of the rectangle around it, then what you can do is use the black arrow, and then using the black arrow, you can then adjust the square around it, which also then will further crop it. So this can be a little bit confusing, so I recommend you practice this over and over. So if I want to move the crop picture here, I'm just going to move it with the black arrow and leave it here. The other thing I want to show you next is the white arrow can be used to move the points as well. So if I clicked on this point, I can then move it, and then that's going to crop my picture that way as well. So there I am, I move it. If I want to change the size of the picture inside, I can use the white arrow. It'll select the picture. I can press the Shift, make it bigger, or I can make it smaller. And then also, if I want to move it inside, I can also use my white arrow and then move it inside. And then so far you should just practice placing the image full size, placing the image by clicking and dragging in order to make a smaller than actual size photo placement, and then also use the white arrow to move the points on the box like this, and also use the white arrow to move your picture inside of the crop frame. And also if you press Shift, you can also resize it, again using the white arrows. So practice these over and over again until you feel comfortable using these tools, because they can be a little bit confusing the first time you use them. If you go to Window Links, you're going to see the bow JPEG show up, and also you can see a little link icon on top of each picture. So these pictures are linked to my Illustrator file, and that'll allow me to make sure that the file will properly open. If the pictures are not in the same folder, then you're going to have a problem. You're not going to be able to open these pictures, or there could be a question mark or a broken link sign showing up. So that's why it's really important that the pictures are saved in the same folder as your actual InDesign file. And also, if you zoom in, you're going to see that the pictures are a little bit pixely, and that's because they're just linked. They're not embedded. So that means that they might look pixely right now, but when you print them, the printout will be sharp because the computer will link to your original high-resolution file in the folder. The reason why we're doing this is because this will allow you to not slow down your computer, because the actual file is not embedded. It's just the preview of the file that's being linked to the file, which will allow you to be able to work faster and not to have your computer crash. If you want to actually embed the picture, you can. What you would have to do is select on the actual picture and then go to this menu here, and then you're going to select embed all instances, because I have copied it a couple of times. So I'm going to select embed, and then now the picture is embedded. So what I recommend is that you don't embed the pictures, but instead you just link them. But I just wanted to show you how to do it. So if you just link them, it'll work well, as long as all of the pictures are in the same folder as your actual document that you have saved. So that's it for the page number 1. So now we're going to see how we can place multiple files. So on your page number 2, which is here, we are going to go to File, Place, and we're going to select multiple pictures. So File, Place, you're going to press Command, and then you're going to click on the Lady X, Stripes, and Origami. Then we're going to click on Open. So there's 2 ways you can do this. You can just click, 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 and they'll come in their actual size. You can see that this one is really, really big. So that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it would be to click and drag. That way you can limit them to whatever size you want. So I'm going to do File, Place. So for this one, I'm going to press, again, Command. I select this one, Stripes, and then Origami, and then I click on Open. So this time I'm going to click and drag to specify the size of each one that I want. So I'll click and drag for this one. This one I'll just click because I think it's really tiny, so it'll come down. And then this one, I know it's really big, so instead of clicking, I'm just going to click and drag to specify what size I want for it. So there it is. That's how you place multiple files. So next we're going to look at how to resize a photograph proportionally with its frame. So step number 1, use the black arrow, select the image. Then you're going to press Command and Shift at the same time. And then you can drag in the corner to resize it. There we go. Let's do this again. So select the picture with a black arrow, press Shift and Command at the same time, and then drag in the corner to resize it. So remember, you can make the picture smaller than original size it had when it came down, but you can make it bigger. But in this case, this original photo was too small, so I'm going to cheat a little bit and I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. So I'll press Command and Shift and then drag it in the corner to make it bigger. Next, we're going to see how to restack the photos, and that is very similar to what you did in Illustrator. So if I select this photo, I can go to right-click, Arrange, Bring to Front. Right-click, Arrange, Bring to Front, and then it'll come on top. Again, if I select this one, I can go to Arrange, and then Bring to Front, and then it'll go on top. So this is the same as what we did in Illustrator. The other thing we can look at is how to rotate the object. So one way is to just simply click on it with a black arrow and then click and drag in the corner, and then it'll rotate your photo. I'm going to Command Z, undo that. The other way to do it would be to select it with the black arrow and go to transform, and then I can select rotate, and then I can say, let's say 10 degrees, and then I can preview that, and so this is 10 degrees, or I can say 20 degrees, and then I can preview that, and then I can say OK. Okay, so you can rotate it plus 20 degrees or minus 20 degrees or whatever you want it, or you can do it manually as well. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you how to put an image inside of a shape. So first of all, I'm going to create an oval shape on page number 3, just like that. And then I will go to File, Place, and then I will bring down a photo. So File, Place. I will select in the face picture. I will click on the Open button once, and then I will click inside of it. So that put the face inside, but it's too big. So what I want to do is not change the side of the oval, but I want to change the side of the picture inside. So I'm going to use the white arrow. I'm going to click with the white arrow and then press Shift, and then that'll allow me to not only change the size of the picture inside, but it'll also allow me to move it around. So I use the white arrow. It'll select the picture, it'll allow me to move it and to resize it using Shift. If you, on the other hand, wanted to change the size of the oval, then you would use the black arrow, and then the same thing as in Illustrator, you can just click and drag and then change the size of the oval. Now that I want to move it, I can just move it up a little bit. Now let's practice this one more time. So I'm going to use the pen tool. I'm going to draw a thunderbolt, and then I will put another picture inside. So here is a shape that I drew from scratch. I will select it. I will go to File, Place. I will click on the picture stripes. I will click on Open. I will click inside of the thunderbolt. It'll go inside. But now I'm going to use the white arrow, and using the white arrow, this picture is really big, I'm going to press Shift, and then this will allow me to get the full figure to go inside of my thunderbolt. So for this project, I'm asking you for the demo to put the full figure inside of the thunderbolt and to make it fit with her face showing. So now I'm doing pretty good. I'm just going to move her down a little bit, and now I have the full figure showing. So that is how you put shape inside. The other thing I want to look at is how can you add another layer. So we're going to, number one, make sure we have layers showing. So for right now, I only have one layer. So if I go to layers, I just only have one. So what I'll do is I'll create another layer by clicking on this plus button. So now I have layer number 2 showing up here. So what I want to do is go back to layer number 1, and I'm going to actually cut these pictures by selecting them with the black arrow like this. And then I will go to layer number 2, and I'm going to paste them. So here they are. So now they're in layer 2, and then the rest of the stuff is in layer 1. So I'm going to lock layer number 2. Then I will go to layer number 1 and make it my active layer. And then using the rectangle tool, I'm going to draw a shape, just a rectangle. And I'm going to just go to the properties here. You can see properties here. So you can change the stroke here. So for example, let's just change it to this. I can make it thicker. So again, you can go to Window Properties, or you can go to Window Stroke to display this. And then for fill, I can choose from these colors here, or I can just double click here, and then I can choose my own color, let's say this kind of pink color, and then I will click on OK. So essentially, you can change the fill, the stroke, and you can put anything else in the layer underneath. So for the demo, I'm asking you to have these two pictures in layer number 1, in layer number 2, and then you're going to have the pink rectangle in layer number 1. So it's the same thing as in Illustrator. So here's my layer 1 with the pink rectangle, and here's my layer 2 with these two photos. So that's how you can work with layers in InDesign. It's pretty much the same as in Photoshop. The other thing that you can have a look at is how to move the pages around and how to add and delete your pages. So for that, I'm going to go here and then I will look at my pages. So for example, if I select page number 10, I can garbage it. By clicking on the garbage icon, it's going to delete it. So there we go. Now I only have 9. So I'm going to undo that. So that's how to delete a page. If you want to add another page, then what you can do is you can just click on a plus button and it'll give you another page. So now I have 11. Okay, so if I want to delete that number 11 page, I'll just click on the garbage icon. So again, add a page, delete a page is another thing that you can do as well. The other thing you can also do is move these pages around. So if I select page number 3, I can move it down over here. And then now you can see it went all the way down and it became my page number 6. So you can simply click and drag a page in order to move them around. So I'm just going to undo this and go back to my layout that I have so far. And I'm just going to quickly save it before I lose it. So now you know how to add a page, how to delete a page, and how to move the pages around. So the next thing we're going to look at is how to work with your text. So I'm going to go to page number 4 and zoom in a bit more. And then we're going to start working with the text. So there's your text tool, which is a type tool and type on path. So the type tool works by selecting it first, and then you click and drag to create a text box, and then you can type whatever you want inside. There is a function here that's really great, which is type fill with placeholder text. So I go to type fill with placeholder text, and then that's going to put the text inside of my box so I can see what it's going to look like. So now if your text box is too small, for example, now it's too small, a little plus icon shows up, meaning the text doesn't fit. So what I have to do is I can either make my font smaller in order to make it all fit inside of my box, or I can just drag to make the box bigger so that all of my text can fit inside. So again, if the text box is too small, you're going to see a little plus, and then in order to make it bigger, you're just going to click and drag, make the text box bigger, and then the text will fill in accordingly. The other thing that you can do is change the number of columns that you see. So to do that, you're going to select the text frame with the black arrow, and then you're going to see the number of columns box here. So here on top in the options bar, it says 1. So if I go click on the upper arrow, it'll give me 2 or 3 columns. So you can keep going and adding more. The other thing you can do also is you can increase or decrease what they call gutter, which is the space between the columns. So if I go up, I'm getting bigger gutter, and if I go down, I'm getting a smaller gutter or smaller spacing between the columns. Now we're going to look at the other option you have if your text doesn't fit in the current text box. So the first option, as we know, was to simply drag and make the box bigger, and then all of your text is going to fit in it. But the other option you have is to create a new shape using the pen tool or using the rectangle, ellipse, or polygon tool, and then transfer the rest of the text into it. But the other thing you can also do is just draw another text box and then transfer the rest of the text into it so that it'll fit over the 2 boxes. So if that's what you want, what you do is you click on the type tool, you click and drag to create a new text box. Then you use the black arrow, you select your text, you click on the little plus, the red plus in the corner, the preview shows up, and then you click inside of the new text box, and then your text will spill over to the new text box. There we are. Okay, so that's one option you have. The other option you have is to actually make a shape using the pen tool or to use any of the pre-existing shapes, such as the polygon, for example. So if I draw a polygon, I can actually have the rest of this text spill out inside of my polygon. So it's the same thing. You select your first text with the black arrow, you click on the plus sign, the red plus sign, the preview shows up, and then you click on the top of the polygon, and then the text will spill inside. If it doesn't fit, you can make it bigger, but in my case it does fit, so I'm okay with that. And then if it were too small, then again you would see the little plus icon show up. So there I am with that. And then if I didn't want to have any stroke showing, I can then actually select no stroke, and then I will have the text inside of my polygon, but you wouldn't see my stroke. Again, if you see a plus, that means it's too small, so you can make the shape bigger so your text is going to fit. So practice around, practice with adding extra columns, practice transferring text that doesn't fit into a new shape or into a new text box, just like what I did now. And so this is what you should have on your demo number 1 so far. So I'm just going to save this right now. The other thing I want to show you is fairly simple. It's the same as in Illustrator, and it's type on a path. So if I use a pen tool, and if I was to draw a curved shape, a curved line, okay, so now that you drew a curved line, you're going to go to type on a path tool. You're going to click at the beginning of the line, and then you can start typing. Again, you can also go to type, fill with the placeholder text in order to just fill the line with the text. And again, if it doesn't fit, it's going to give you a plus sign. So then it means you have to spill the text over to a new line or a new shape. Okay, so it's the same as what we saw previously. So I'm just going to save this. So this is pretty much the same as in Illustrator, type on a path tool. Finally, I want to show you the window type and table character palette, so you can see the options you have for your text. So if I go to window, type and tables, and then I can go to character. And then here I can see all the different font sizes, etc. So if I, for example, select some of this, then I can increase the font. See, now it's changing to 24. I can also change the spacing between the lines, spacing between the letters, etc. So this also is pretty much the same as in Illustrator. And so basically what you have to do is select the shape with the text, or select specific part of your text with the text tool, and then you're going to be able to change the character from it. So that is again the character palette that you can modify your font size, etc. from there. So in order to do that, you would actually have to select the type tool, select whatever you want to change, and then you can make this font, for example, smaller. You can also change the distance between the lines, etc. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you today is how you can modify a file that's been linked. So you can modify any of the files, but let's say I want to modify this one. So if I select this file, it'll show as highlighted in the links window, and then I can go to right click and then edit with, and then I can say edit with Photoshop. So then this file is going to open in Photoshop. So the reason why I'm showing you this is because if you modify a file this way, the change will automatically update in your InDesign file. So if I take my brush tool, for example, and I paint on top of this image in Photoshop, like this, then if I click on save, let me see if I can get a better color. So if I click on save here, that'll automatically update. So here I click on save, and then if I go back, I will see that my file is automatically updated. And that is all I wanted to show you for today's demo. And again, I would encourage you to follow step by step as you work and watch the video at the same time, step by step. The other thing I would recommend also is that you should print out the project number 4, especially when you start working on your own designs and on your own files, because then you can refer to how to set up a file, how to resize a picture, how to place multiple pictures, how to restack and rotate the objects, how to insert images inside of a shape, how to crop images, how to work with layers, how to delete and move pages, how to use text tool, change columns, and also how to have the text spill over to another page. So I'm just pointing out again the project number 4 InDesign Demo file that I saved for you for your reference, which will make it easier for you once you start working on your actual design. Thanks for watching.